Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Speak Smartly and Fluently, where we make learning English fun, easy, and effective. I'm your host, Sarah, and as always, I'm joined by my incredible co-host, Ben.
Hey, Sarah. And hello to all our amazing listeners out there. I'm super excited about today's episode because we're going back to the basics, but not just any basics. We're diving into one of the most important verbs in the English language, the verb to be.
That's right. The verb to be is one of the most fundamental verbs in English, and it's used all the time in so many different situations. Whether you're introducing yourself, talking about where you're from, or even describing how you feel, you're using the verb to be. But as simple as it sounds, it can also be a little confusing, especially for new learners, right, Ben?
Absolutely, Sarah. Even though it's one of the first verbs people learn, there are so many forms of to be, like am, is, are, and even was and were, that it can feel overwhelming. But don't worry. We're going to break it all down for you in a way that's easy to understand. And as always, we'll make it fun.
Exactly. By the end of this episode, you'll feel confident using to be in different situations, and you'll understand why it's such a crucial part of speaking English. So, let's get started. All right, Ben, let's start with the basics. What exactly is the verb to be, and why is it so important in English?
Great question, Sarah. The verb to be is what we call a linking verb. It connects the subject of a sentence to additional information about that subject. For example, in the sentence I am a teacher, the verb am links I to a teacher. It's basically telling you what I am, or in this case, what I do.
Exactly. And what makes to be such a big deal is that it's one of the most common verbs in the English language. We use it in a variety of situations, talking about who we are, what we do, where we are, and how we feel. Whether you're talking about the present, the past, or even the future, the verb to be is there.
Plus, it's not just used for people. We also use to be when we're talking about objects, places, or even ideas. For instance, this coffee is delicious, or the weather was great yesterday. It's everywhere.
Right, Ben. And even though it sounds simple, the verb to be is like the glue that holds English sentences together. So, if you can get comfortable with it, you'll be able to form basic sentences and express yourself in a lot of different ways. Now that we've got a general idea of what to be does, let's talk about its different forms. This is where a lot of English learners get confused, right?
Yeah, because the verb to be changes depending on the subject and the tense. Let's break it down by focusing on the present tense first.
Okay. In the present tense, to be changes to 3 different forms: am, is, and are. So, when do we use each one, Ben?
Let's keep it simple. Am is only used with the subject I. For example, I am happy, or I am a student. Is used with he, she, it, or any singular noun. For example, she is a doctor, or the book is on the table. Are is used with you, we, they, or any plural noun. For example, they are friends, or you are ready.
That's a really simple way to remember it. But listeners, here's where things can get a little tricky. In English, we often contract the verb to be, especially in casual conversation. So, instead of saying I am, we might say I'm. And instead of he is, we'll say he's.
Right. Contractions are super common, and they make your speech sound more natural. So, I'm happy, he's a doctor, or they're excited are just faster, more relaxed ways of saying the same thing.
Now, let's move on to the past tense of to be, which is another area that can trip people up. In the past, to be becomes either was or were. Ben, when do we use each one?
Good question. It's actually pretty similar to the present tense forms. Was is used with I, he, she, it, or any singular noun. For example, I was at the park yesterday, or she was a teacher. Were is used with you, we, they, or any plural noun. For example, they were on vacation, or you were late.
Exactly. And just like in the present tense, you can contract these in informal speech. Although it's less common with the past tense, you might hear people say, I wasn't, or they weren't.
And here's something important to remember. The past tense of to be doesn't just refer to time, it's also used to talk about hypothetical or imaginary situations. For example, if I were you, I would take the job.
Right. And I love that example, Ben. Even though I normally uses was, in this kind of hypothetical situation, we switch to were. That's something a lot of learners don't realize at first, but once you get the hang of it, it becomes second nature. Now, Ben, let's have some fun with the verb to be. Did you know there are tons of idioms and expressions that use this simple verb?
Oh, absolutely. One of my favorites is to be on cloud nine. It means you're extremely happy, like you're floating on a cloud. For example, I was on cloud nine when I got the job offer. It's a fun way to express excitement.
That's a great one. Another fun idiom is to be in someone's shoes, which means to imagine yourself in another person's situation. For example, if I were in your shoes, I would study harder.
Yeah, idioms really spice up your English and make conversations more colorful. Here's another, to be in hot water. It means you're in trouble or facing a difficult situation. For example, he's in hot water after missing the deadline.
I love that one. And idioms like these are a great way to practice using the verb to be in more advanced ways. The more you get comfortable with these phrases, the more natural you'll sound. All right, listeners, now that we've covered the basics, it's time to practice. We want you to feel confident using the verb to be in different situations, so we've got a few exercises for you to try.
Let's start simple. Think of a sentence using the present tense of to be. For example, I am learning English, or the weather is nice today. Try forming a few sentences on your own.
That's a great exercise. And now, let's switch to the past tense. How about yesterday, I was at the gym, or they were at the party last night. See if you can create more examples like these.
And for those of you who like a challenge, try making some sentences using contractions, like I'm happy or they're tired. It's a great way to practice speaking more naturally.
So there you have it, everyone, the verb to be in all its glory. It's one of the most important verbs in the English language, and now you know how to use it in different tenses, contractions, and even some fun idioms.
Exactly. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, the more you practice, the more confident you'll become. Keep trying out different sentences, listen to how native speakers use to be, and soon it'll feel like second nature.
And if you want to practice even more, just listen to this episode again and again until you've got it down. You'll master it in no time.
Before we go, Sarah, what do we have lined up for our next episode?
In our next episode, we're going to switch things up and dive into something that can be tricky for a lot of English learners: how to handle tenses easily in English. If you've ever felt confused about when to use the past, present, or future tense, or how to switch between them smoothly, this episode is for you.
That's right, Sarah. We'll break down the most common tenses in English, show you how to form them, and give you simple strategies to use them naturally in conversations. Whether you're talking about something that's happening right now, something you did yesterday, or something you're planning for the future, mastering tenses is essential.
Absolutely, Ben. And the best part is, we're going to make it fun and easy to understand. You won't need to stress over grammar rules. By the end of this episode, you'll feel more confident and ready to use English tenses in your everyday conversations.
So, if you've ever felt overwhelmed by English tenses, don't worry, we've got you covered. You definitely won't want to miss this one.
Definitely not. Thanks for listening today, and if you found the video helpful and that you're feeling more equipped to handle the verb to be, please hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so you never miss an episode, and share it with others who might benefit. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, we'd love to hear from you, so your feedback is really important to us. Thanks for listening, and as always, happy learning. You're doing great. Bye, everyone.